Presenting Father Maguire, the fat chap in a flat cap. Viewer discretion is advised. Some of what you are about to see may shock you. It may astound you. You may want to see more. Fasten your seatbelts. This could get bumpy. Filmed in Technicolor. Good afternoon. Tis I, Father Maguire. Sorry I've not had a video up for a couple of weeks. There's been a few reasons really. Not a lot's been happening in my life, apart from last week when I went in for surgery. So I thought I'd do a bit of an update because I'm back to hospital again tomorrow to have the bandage off and stitches out. So a lot of you will know, because I've mentioned it before in my videos, that I suffer from a hereditary condition called Viking Disease. It's known as Dupuytrens Contracture. Basically, hard nodes form in the palm of your hand and attach to tendons in your fingers and slowly pull your fingers into your hand. And if you don't have the nodes taken out, eventually your hand will be permanently a fist. And then, unfortunately, in the worst cases, they'll probably have to amputate your fingers to make your life more quality of life, really. So, last couple of weeks, what's happened? I've rang the DVLA. I found a complaints number to find out what the hell's going on with my licence. And basically, I was on hold for an hour and a quarter, and all they told me was, yes, it's an open case with our medical doctor, and that was it. So I waited for an hour and a quarter for him to tell me nothing, pretty much, of more than anything that I already knew. So I'm still waiting for my licence, and I'm losing hope that it's ever going to happen anytime soon, because in a local group from the city where I'm from, Lincoln, somebody mentioned they've been waiting 5 months for their licence to come back, and he was having bus categories added, something like that. So if mine started in February, I'm looking at July if I actually get it back. And his hit the headlines and went to the local newspaper, and in fact, yeah, I think he was actually on the local news about it as well. So it's been highlighted for him, but not for me. So beyond that, last Tuesday I went in for surgery. As you can tell, this is not a homemade job. The experience wasn't brilliant this time, I'll be honest. The majority of the staff there were very good, but in the lead up to the surgery itself on the day, I had the doctor who was doing the surgery come and see me, which was all right. Then the anaesthetist came and tried for 15-20 minutes to convince me not to have general anaesthetic, but to have one where they put blocks in on you so that you don't feel any pain, and they operate on you while you're awake, which I've had before, and it was an extremely unpleasant experience, I can tell you. She said what she concerns. I mentioned that I didn't want to see anything, and that they wouldn't put anything in front of my hand, so I ended up having to do this for the entire time I was being operated on previously, and it was a very upsetting experience, and it really was. And she tried for 15-20 minutes, and then bugging me, she went off, knowing I told my doctor I wanted general anaesthetic. I don't want to know anything about it. And then someone else walked in and tried convincing me to have a local anaesthetic as well. And this upset me, physically upset me, because I've got a problem with needles, not pain, no problem at all. But, and the fact is that I struggle at times because I suffer from something that's, psychological, that I don't like confrontation, really. And the fact that I'd already explained to one person in detail why, and then had to try to explain, and I was getting very upset, physically upset. And she was, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get you upset." And I said, "Well, why are you pushing me to have local anaesthetic then, when I've said, at least a dozen times, no, And they just kept on going and going. Eventually, she gave up because she knew I wasn't going to change my mind. I quite clearly stated it many, many times. Trust me, if you've got this condition and you have the blocks in and you haven't got a problem, you're not squeamish or anything like that, then, by all means, don't have general anaesthetic if that doesn't affect you in that way. But it does affect me, and they had to be, understand that it does affect me. Um, the problem I had this time, my little finger on my right hand had bent to such a degree that even the doctor in the lead up to this surgery stated that it was highly unlikely that they were going to be able to straighten my little finger. So, it was like that pretty much hooked, and it was catching on all sorts of things. No matter what I did, it was getting in the way and the rest of it. So she said she was going to try to straighten it, but chances are they were going to have to amputate most of it. So basically, from the first knuckle on the finger, the rest of the little finger, that bit at the top, if she couldn't straighten it, they were going to cut it off. Now, with this in mind, if you're awake during an operation, okay, and they're trying like mad to straighten your finger, and then they say to you in the operation, because they would have to, I'm sorry, it's not working, we're going to have to amputate it. Would you really want to hear that while you're awake in an operation? Wouldn't you rather, sort of expect it possibly before and then be told after that it had happened? I certainly wouldn't. Also, the knowledge that now that they, whatever they were doing to my hand, that I would feel the tugging because I've had it, an operation done before where they put blocks in, was they were cutting my finger off. I don't know how I would have been able to cope with that without getting physically upset, because they're cutting your finger off. Do you really want to know while they're doing it that they're doing that? Um, in certain situations, you haven't really got a lot of choice. But in that one, I had a choice, and that's why I wanted general anaesthetic. I didn't want to know what they were doing. And unfortunately, she tried for an hour to straighten my little finger, and she was unable to do so. So she has amputated the majority of my little finger. I've got that basically from my hand knuckle to that first knuckle left on this hand. So this is a much smaller package of bandages and stuff than I've had before. When I've had it done on the palm of my hand, which is basically what they've done is, if I don't know if you can see the scar there, there's a zigzag scar in the palm of my hand, and that's that's called a fasciectomy, is what they've done there. So the nodes that were in the palm of my hand, they open your hand up, they cut the nodes out, make sure there's nothing left in there, and then they stitch it back up, and that's basically the scar that's left there. So I've had operations on that little finger, the palm of that hand, and touch wood, it's not returned yet on this hand. On this hand, I've already had one surgery on the little finger, which didn't work. It got worse after the operation than it was before. So that didn't work. And because of COVID, because all operations that were considered not emergencies or trauma were not considered important enough to be done, my fingers got to the point where it's pretty useless. And that's why, she said, I'll try, but if I can't, we'll have to take it, which is what they've done. But also, for the first time, they've done my little finger, but they've also done the palm of my hand. So instead of having two separate surgeries, they've done it all in one go, which is brilliant because, touch wood again, this might be the last time I have to have surgery for this condition. There is a 60% chance of Dupuytrens Contracture returning to you within 5 years. So there's always a chance that in the future it might, but I'll know at that time. My fingers will never properly straighten again on this hand. That's me trying to straighten my fingers. And even though it was only the little finger that was operated on, because the Dupuytrens was in the centre of my left hand, it was already starting to pull my fingers. You can see the knuckle there is a little bit raised, and that's how you can tell that you've definitely got Dupuytrens, because that's a sign of Dupuytrens there is raised knuckles. When you look at the others, they're not raised, but that one there is. And even though I can't show you on this hand now, you can see it on my thumb there. So if they've got all the nodes out, then they should go down. I can pull this back quite a bit to show you the knuckles on these fingers as well are quite raised. So even though they've probably got all the nodes out, it's not got to the point yet where those knuckles have gone back down again. You know, I call it swelling. The swelling's gone back down. So yeah, I had the surgery on Tuesday. My mum kindly put me up for 2 or 3 days. I was only going to stay for a couple of days because after general anaesthetic, you've got to stay with somebody for 24 hours in case there's a problem. But I stayed till Friday, then I came back. I was walking George around my mum's place. Wednesday, I went out with her in the morning, went for a walk with her, even though I got no sleep whatsoever. Didn't sleep at all Tuesday night. I don't know why. I wasn't uncomfortable. You know, I was warm when I wanted to be, cold when I wanted to be. There was nothing wrong. I just couldn't sleep. So yeah, I started walking George, although I wasn't holding his lead, because that's the one thing. When I was coming back, there's so many different things that you can't do when your hand's in this sort of situation, and it's silly things like open jars, because you've got to get that strength in your hand. And because I know, I don't suppose you can see, but just underneath there's a gauze. And that's basically the start of where they cut into my hand. It'll be better on my next video. You'll be able to see it a little bit more. I'll put a warning that there's probably graphic content, because when I go back tomorrow, I'm having the stitches out on my little finger. What they've done, basically, let me tell you, is they told me if they were going to have to amputate, they were going to take the flap of skin from this section of the little finger and fold it over the bottom knuckle there, and that's what's going to seal up the amputation, basically. So that's what they've done. They've taken that flap of skin off the finger that they were, well, the part of the finger they were taking off, and rolled it over the knuckle, and sealed it and stitched it a couple of times. But also, because they'll have done the palm of my hand, I'll have got probably 12 stitches in the palm of my hand that they might be taking out tomorrow. It's unusual for me, because when I've had this surgery before, it's been 2 weeks before they booked me back in to have the stitches out. Well, this time it's only 9 days. They also told me amputations, actually, you recover faster than having, like the work that was done on this. It took me 6 months of physiotherapy to try and get my finger to some sense of being straight again. I did 8 months when I had the surgery on the little finger the first time on this hand, and it just wouldn't get any better. No matter what we tried, it got to a certain degree, and then it just wouldn't get any better. So that's when we sort of stopped the physiotherapy, and that was probably 3 or 4 years ago. So of course then there's been the COVID crisis, trying to get in to get that done, but it was too late by that time, because it was just too bent. You know, it was at a 90-degree angle pretty much from the first knuckle down. It literally was like that. So, and that's useless. This one, I can do things with this one. I'm still never going to get the grip or that I used to have in this hand, because of the condition, because of how it affects your joints. But if you are having to have surgery, and you can handle the blocks, good for you. Make sure you can't see it if you're squeamish, because the hospital told me that they would cover my arm down to where they were operating, so I wouldn't see a thing, which is brilliant. But the first surgery I had was in a medical centre, at where was it, Curtin, near Boston, and it was a horrible experience. It wasn't so much, I mean, the injection that they put in your hand to numb it in the first place so that they could work on it was, and I don't feel pain. I've got quite a high pain tolerance, but it was bloody painful. I can tell you that now. It was really painful. But once you know, it had set in and I couldn't feel anything. It was fine. The problem for me was they put like a tourniquet on your arm, a bit like what they do to get your vein to pop. But this tourniquet was to cut off your circulation. And after about half an hour, I can tell you that was painful. And I was extremely uncomfortable. I still managed to get it done. I didn't really have a choice at that point, but they wouldn't put anything, a screen or anything, in front of where they were working. And of course, I could feel them tugging at my hand and, you know, hearing noises and stuff like that. So when I realised that there was going to be noise, I asked if I could listen to music on my phone. So I had earphones in. That's a recommendation, folks. They do say in your hospital notes as well, especially for Derby, that they have a CD player in the room if you want to listen to music or anything. But I was allowed to take my phone in with my earpieces, so I couldn't hear anything, because that would probably make you a bit more upset than seeing as well as actually hearing what they're doing. So that's a top tip for anyone that's considering, you know, that needs the surgery. Some people with Dupuytrens, like the actor Bill Nighy, decides he's not going to have any surgery at all because it gives him character. Well, I can tell you, I've been a piano player since I was 5. Started learning piano at 5. And because of this condition, I now can't play the way I would, you know, before. When I didn't have a problem with my hands, I could do augmented scales and stretch my little finger out to get the notes that were required. I can't do that now. The other thing for me personally that I found extremely difficult with this condition is motorbikes. Um, I have enjoyed for many years getting motorbikes, whether they're roadworthy or not, um, doing them up, selling them on, or riding them for a while and selling them on. And because of this condition and the way that my hands now work, I can't do the fiddly bits. You know, I'm forever dropping and losing screws or nuts or washers or whatever because my hands just don't work or function the way they used to. So this is something that's really, especially with this hand, the way that finger was hooked and the fact that, you know, my fingers are starting to creep in, it's going to affect your hand controls on a motorbike. And this one I've managed to deal with all right because the operations have been successful and I've still been able to brake and, you know, do what I need to do and have a grip. But this one has been a bit of an issue. And now I've lost most of my little finger. I know that when I said braking with that hand, it's clutch, isn't it? When you're braking with this hand, I know that my little finger was quite important at getting on the lever. So for me, even when I've recovered from this, whether I'll be able to ride bikes properly and safely in the future remains to be seen. If you don't have this done, then those things will probably definitely happen for you because it's important that you've got use of your hands on a motorbike, especially. You can probably work your way around it, but you have to make sure you're safe with it. So I've had to stop it. I've even got all my motorbike gears gone because it's just a constant reminder that it's something that I loved that I now can't do. Hopefully in the future, might get one, you know, in a few more years. But right now, I can't do it. And it's things like that. Even you know, movements on the keyboard where you were able to type your typing speed. I've got a fairly good typing speed on the keyboard, but again with this, doesn't really help. So yeah, I just thought I'd give you an update. I don't want to go on too long. I'm already ranting on to 20 minutes. So basically, I just thought I'd give you an update, folks. I'm back out walking him twice a day. I'm being careful. I've had to stop wearing jumpers and stuff because this is actually, it's pulling off. Every time I pull a jumper, it just gets further and further up, and I have to keep pulling it back down again every day. So hopefully from tomorrow it'll be gone, so I don't have to keep doing that. But yeah, I'll sign off for now. I'll do another video once I've been to the hospital, give you an update and show you what's gone on and what they've done to me tomorrow. Hopefully stitches out and I won't have this on me. But anyway, thank you for bearing with me, folks. I do appreciate you watching these videos, and I will be back with another one as soon as I've had another visit to the hospital. And take care for now, Father Maguire out.